Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am Jigyasa, welcoming you to the session on recent amendments in ZATCA e-Invoicing on behalf of the Webtel family. Over the two decades, Webtel has been India's one of the leading e-compliance solutions company, well known for its compliance management, office management, HR management solutions. We believe in delivering our best to clients through our expertise and dedicated professionalism. We have incorporated a knowledge academy as well, where you can do all of your learnings by opting for self-paced courses, staying in line with the blogs, and keeping pace with the webinars, etc. Despite having a long history of providing simplified solutions to help our clients, communities, and networks facing challenges, compliance challenges, we dare ourselves constantly to anticipate, plan, and execute in order to simplify the ever-changing world of compliances. Our products and services have covered it all for your proficiencies in compliance, virtual, HRMS, SAP, company law, and outsourcing solutions. We have reached greater heights in providing legal and regulatory compliance management solutions, even in the KSA as a ZATCA approved vendor, and developed desktop-based applications with advanced facilities for e-filing, e-reporting, auto-updating of laws, enterprise resource planning, payroll, etc. Today, we are presenting a webinar on recent amendments in ZATCA e-Invoicing, presented by Mr. Rajiv Khandelwal. Mr. Rajiv Khandelwal is a fellow chartered accountant of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He is also DISA ICAI, a certified systems auditor. He is also an alumnus of Sri Ram College of Commerce. He has over 3 decades of expertise in the compliance sector. Mr. Khandelwal has addressed over thousands of webinars and seminars so far on the compliances at NASCO, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Institute of Company Secretaries of India, Institute of Cost and Work Accountants of India, and various other study circles, etc. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into the chat box. We will take the session at the end. We will take them at the end of this session. Now, I would request my colleague, Mr. Nazim, to address you all in Arabic.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Marhaban bikum jami'an أيها المساهمين الكرام. شكرا لانضمامكم إلينا في هذه الدراسة الشاكية اليوم. أنا محمد نازم إقبال أرحب بكم ترحيبا حارا في هذه الجلسة على التعديلات الأخيرة في زاتكا بإشان الفواتير الإلكترونية نيابة عن شركة ويبتل. لا تزال شركة ويبتل الإلكتروسية خاصة ليمتد حلول الامتثال المعروفة لإدارة الامتثال وإدارة المكاتب وحلول إدارة الموارد البشرية منذ عقدين. نحن نؤمن بتقديم أفضل الخدمات للعملاء والزبائن بواسطة خبرتنا واحترافنا. لقد قمنا بدمج أكاديمية المعروفة أيضا، حيث يمكنكم أن تتعلموا عن طريق اختيار الدراسات الذاتية. على الرغم من وجود تاريخ طويل في تقديم حلول مبسطة لمساعدة عملائنا وزبائننا ومجتمعاتنا وشبكاتنا التي تواجه تحديات الامتثال، فإننا نجرؤ على أنفسنا باستمرار على التنبؤ والتخطيط والتنفيذ من أجل تبسيط عالم الامتثال المتغير باستمرار. وقد غطت منتجاتنا وخدماتنا كل شيء عن الكفاءات الخاصة في الامتثال، نظام إدارة الموارد البشرية، ساب، قانون الشركات، وحلول الاستعانة بمصادر خارجية. لقد وصلنا إلى مستويات عالية في توفير حلول إدارة الامتثال القانوني والتنظيمي حتى في المملكة العربية السعودية كمورد معتمد من زاتكا. وطورنا تطبيقات سطح المكتب مع مرافق متقدمة للعداد الإلكتروني وإعداد التقارير إلكترونيا والتحديث التلقائي للقوانين وتخطيط موارد المؤسسات وكشوف المرتبات وما إلى ذلك. نقدم اليوم كل شيء عن التعديلات الأخيرة في زاتكا بشأن الفواتير الإلكترونية والذي سيتحدث عنها السيد رازق خاندلوال. السيد رازق خاندلوال هو زميل محاسب قانوني في معهد المحاسبين القانونيين في الهند، وهو أيضا ICAI و DISA مدقق أنظمة معتمد، وهو أيضا خريج كلية تجارية لديه أكثر من 3 عقود من الخبرة في هذا القطاع. خاطب السيد خاندلوال أكثر من 1000 ندوات عبر الإنترنت حتى الآن حول الانتصال في ناسكوم، معهد المحاسبين القانونيين في الهند، معهد أمناء الشركات في الهند، معهد محاسب التكلفة والأشغال في الهند، ودوائر الدراسة المختلفة. قبل أن نبدأ، إذا كان لديكم أي أسئلة أثناء الندوة عبر الويب فيرجى كتابتها في مربع الأسئلة في قسم دردشة الزوم، سنردكم خلال ويبينار في النهاية أيضا.
Thank you, Nazimji. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Mr. Rajiv Khandelwal. Sir, please.
Very good afternoon to all the participants. And I just now saw a query in the chat box whether it will be in Arabic. No, the introduction only was in Arabic. The webinar will be in English, don't worry. And inshallah, I'll be learning Arabic soon, and I'll also be addressing in Arabic sometimes maybe. So last time we had the webinar, it was prior to the e-invoicing regulation coming into effect, that is before 4th of December 2021. And now already the first phase is on. And quickly in the chat box, if you could provide me how's the experience like till now? Has there been any change as per the earlier regime and now in the e-invoicing first phase regime? Quickly in the chat box, if you can write if there's any change or if all the compliances are met or there are some doubts. So please quickly in the chat box, if you can provide me these information, this will help me to answer your queries and all. Are you sure that you are compliant with what you are doing? Are there any issues? Has anything changed from the paper invoice regime to the e-invoicing, electronic invoicing regime? Has anything changed as far as you people are concerned? Any replies on that? Okay, you can reply to that and I'll start the presentation. So first of all, as I asked you, are you compliant with phase 1 of e-invoicing in ZATCA? And also, are you ready for phase 2? These are the two important questions that we will try to answer during this session. So first of all, a new thing that has come, that there have been reclassification of the VAT and e-invoice violations. Let us quickly see what these changes are. And as you're aware, the applicability of this is with effect from 30th of January 2022. If there have been earlier violations, they are not covered by this. So first of all, we have some reclassification of violations. Second, determining penalties to begin with alerting. And third, educating the taxpayer before imposing a fine. So something good has been done by the government, that instead of right away imposing the fine or penalty, they will first educate you about that, bring to your notice that this non-compliance has been done, and thereafter on a graded system, the penalties will be levied. And the violator will be given an appropriate time period of up to 3 months from the date of inflicting the penalty to correct the violation, as you're aware. What will not be covered under these decisions? Let us first of all see. that in case of these violations, this graded scheme will not apply. The normal penalties will apply. So what are these exclusions? Let us see. Tax evasion. If there's any tax evasion, it is not covered by this. If there's any failure to file declarations, even that is not covered under this. Delayed filing of returns, so you have to continue to file returns in time. Otherwise, normal penalties will be levied and normal consequences will follow. Failure to pay taxes due, late payment of taxes, and manipulation of tax returns. All these are excluded from the purview of the new decision, which is about the reclassification of penalties and a graded response for penalties. So these are out from that, and in case of these, the normal provisions will apply. So first of all, let us see the VAT violations. Failure to include all elements of the tax invoice in tax invoices or credit and debit notes. E-invoicing we will come to later, even in case of various clients that we are handling right away in KSA. We are doing e-invoicing solutions for them. We are also providing consultancy to them. And in many cases, we have seen that even in the VAT regime, the compliances were not proper. Like in many cases, all the elements which are required in the tax invoice or the credit note or the debit note were not present. So one of the failures is this. Then another thing is failure to issue a tax invoice. In some cases where tax invoices to be issued, the people I've seen are issuing a simplified tax invoice. So that is a problem. And this is covered, obviously, all these are covered under the reclassification of VAT violations. Failure to keep invoices, records, and accounting documents for the specified period. As you are aware that most of the documents are required to be kept for a period of 6 years after the year that it pertains to. And in different for fixed assets, etc., the period is longer, around 11 years. So all these things we have to comply with. Otherwise, there are penalties. Then failure to issue a credit or debit note, or not to consider them, or not to provide them to the customer. All these issues are there. Then incorrectly calculating the tax. If you are not calculating the tax correctly, then also that's a violation, and it is covered in the reclassification that we are talking about. Or preventing or hindering the authorities' employees from performing the job or duties and tasks. So all these kind of violations are covered in the reclassification. And any other provision, violation of any other provision of the VAT law or regulation. So in case of all these things, there is a graded penalty system that we'll just now see. Besides that, we also have e-invoice violations. Now, since the e-invoice regime is in place, so even the violations already may be happening in some cases, and the authority will see whether all the compliances are being done properly or not. So even that needs to be seen. And they have also covered that in the reclassification. What all kind of violations could be there? Let us see. Not issuing and saving invoices and notes electronically, which is a prerequisite of e-invoicing in phase 1. Then non-compliance with keeping e-invoices and electronic notes according to the specified format. Failure to inform the authority or of any malfunctions that hinder the process of issuing invoices and electronic notes. So if there's any problem and you are unable to issue the invoices electronically, in that case, you have to inform the authorities. The ZATCA has to be informed, and as soon as possible, you have to issue these invoices. So all these violations are covered here. Not including the QR code in e-invoice. Obviously, in the first phase, it's only for simplified tax invoice. So if that is not done, it is also a violation. You must be aware. Then another one is including any of the prohibited functions in the e-invoicing, like proper user logs are not kept. Proper user ID password is not there. Some default user ID password is saved and the person is able to log into the solution. Those kind of things are also prohibited. then deleting, editing, or making adjustments to the invoices or electronic notes, that's also a violation. And any other violation of the e-invoicing law. All these are covered under the new classification of e-invoice violations. So what are the penalties for these violations? Let us see. In the case of the first violation, they will just issue a notice to you. They will not impose any monetary penalty. But if you comply with that, that's fine. If on the second instance, and the violation is for the second time and they visit you again, or they come to know that you are still violating, in that case, 1,000 riyal will be penalty will be you'll have to bear. On the third instance, the amount will increase to 5,000 SAR. On the fourth time violation, the amount will increase to 10,000 riyal. And from fifth violation onwards, the amount will increase to 40 times, 40,000 riyal. So it is a good opportunity that the government is giving us, that if there's any violation of all these things that we talked about, they will only just bring that to your notice, issue a notice so that you can correct that. But thereafter, if you are not able to do that, and if the second time they check up and still the penalty, since the violation is there, it's a continuing violation, in that case, a graded penalty from 1,000 riyal to 40,000 riyal will be levied. Now, let us see how things will happen. Let's take a case study. Mahmood is the owner of a facility subject to VAT, and he's supposed to issue invoices electronically in the e-invoice regime in phase 1. And it should have, for B2C invoices, the QR code should be there, the basic tax element should be there in the invoice. But he fails to issue a proper invoice. He does not issue it electronically, or the QR code is not there, and the basic tax elements are not there. And on a visit of the tax authority inspectors, if this violation is discovered, so in that case, they will issue a notice to him for the first time violation and explain to him, and so that he can correct that. If he corrects it, that's fine. But if he doesn't, he's unable or unwilling to do that, in that case, subsequently, all these penalties will be levied for subsequent defaults, as you can see. Similarly, in the case of e-invoicing, if things are not done properly, like not issuing and keeping invoices electronically, in the case of this laundry owner, he does not issue electronic invoices, the notice will be issued for the first time, and thereafter, the graded penalty system will be there, as I told you about. The next time 1,000 riyal he'll have to pay as penalty, and thereafter it will keep on increasing in the fashion that we just now saw. So that was about the reclassification of penalties. Now coming to the main topic of e-invoicing, and our main focus will be on the phase 1. Phase 1, just to see whether you are actually compliant. Are you being able to do all the compliances, or some shortcomings are there? And also, we will also try to understand what are the requirements for phase 2, and are you ready for those or not? So we'll start with the basics. As you are aware that handwritten invoices, scanned paper invoices, the invoices in Word format, these are not acceptable. These are not e-invoices. These invoices should be generated electronically in the structured format, and obviously they should include all the requirements of a VAT invoice. When we talk about the applicability of invoices, to which invoices e-invoicing will be applicable, it will be applicable to both the B2B and B2C invoices, that is the tax invoices as well as the simplified tax invoices. And e-invoicing is applicable to every taxable person resident in the kingdom, irrespective of the turnover, and also to third parties that issue tax invoices on behalf of a resident taxable person. Non-resident taxpayers are excluded. So somebody from, if India is issuing invoices, then e-invoicing is of KSA is not applicable to him. If it's applicable in India, then in that case, which is subject to some turnover restrictions, if it's applicable, they will follow the regulations of India. But as far as KSA is concerned, it does not require non-resident taxpayers to issue e-invoices. E-invoices applicable to all taxable supplies, whether of standard rate or zero rate, and also of all taxable supplies to whether to residents or to non-residents. Even if you are making exports, in that case, proper e-invoice is necessary. E-invoicing is not applicable in some cases, like exempt supplies, import of goods, and supplies subject to reverse charge mechanism. And as we are aware, it's a phased implementation. First phase is already there, which is the generation phase from 4th of December 2021, and it's applicable for all the taxpayers. Phase 2 will be applicable with effect from January 1st, 2023, and it will be implemented in waves for the target taxpayer groups. And 6 months in advance, they will be told that you have to comply with this. Yasser has raised his hand. He can write in the chat box what he wants to answer. I'll try to answer that. So in the first phase, which is the generation phase, the general requirements, what are the general requirements? Let us see. Invoice should contain additional fields such as a QR code, which is mandatory for simplified invoices, and generation of invoices in an electronic format, and storage of invoices in an electronic format. So these are the basic requirements of the phase 1. For phase 2, if we talk about, the e-invoice should contain additional fields such as the cryptographic stamp, generation of invoice in XML format, extensible markup language, that is electronic format, and the upload of invoice at the ZATCA portal. For tax invoices, it will be for clearance, and for the simplified tax invoices, it will be for reporting purposes. Now let us understand some technical terms just briefly, because you'll be reading about that, you'll be hearing about that. One is the cryptographic stamp. It is basically a digital signature of the hash of the document of the invoice. It ensures that the content has not been changed and invoice was created by the specified sender. For all these things, this cryptographic stamp will be there, which will be affixed by ZATCA once the invoice is uploaded at its portal. Then also other things are there, which is the unique ID, UUID. It's a 128-bit number generated by an algorithm. It ensures that the same number is not generated by anyone else. Also, there is another concept of hash, which is obtained from the invoice itself, small digital fingerprint of the invoice data. It also ensures that the invoice data has not been altered. These will be used by a compliant e-invoice solution and stored in the invoice XML. It is not required on the physical invoice, and taxpayer may not need this value during the normal invoice issuing process. Now let us look to the tax invoices technical requirements in the first phase and in the second phase. In the first phase, as you can see on the left-hand side, it is the QR code is mandatory for simplified tax invoices and invoices to be stored in electronic format. A cryptographic stamp, hash, UUID, temper-resistant counter, they are not required in the first phase. They are required in the second phase, and QR code will become mandatory for all the invoices in the second phase, whereas it is mandatory only for simplified tax invoices in the first phase. And also invoices will be stored in XML or PDF A3 with embedded XML in the second phase. Connectivity with internet will be required in both the phases, and integration will be required only in the second phase. And please pay attention to this, that the solution for generating and storing invoices must be able to connect to the internet in both the phases. Even obviously, in the first phase, you are not uploading the invoices at the ZATCA portal, but still it requires that whatever solution you are using, any accounting package or ERP solution, it should be able to connect to the internet. So it seems that even the government in future may ask for some connection, and it may have access to this data also. So please be careful about this. Coming to again the phase 1 requirements, because that's already in place. The type of invoices and notes, the generation of tax invoice in simplified tax invoice and the associated notes will happen. The invoices, debit credit notes, no specific format is there. The VAT format, if it was the correct format that you were using earlier, will continue. Some additional fields will be there, which I'll tell you just now. Even the invoice issue time and date should be there. And for data processing and security, tamper evidence mechanism for simplified tax invoices and notes should be there. And for data storage and archival, it's important that all these files are kept in an electronic format, and even the name of the file has been specified, which will be the VAT registration number, e-invoice date of issue, time of issue, and the invoice number. So this is the format of the invoice in which you have to store the invoice. When we talk about the tax invoice in the phase 1, it should be in the normal format of the as specified in the VAT law, and obviously the buyer VAT or TIN should be there in the case of tax invoice. So there's no change as such in that. In the case of a simplified tax invoice, the QR code should be there, and this QR code is to be generated by the e-invoice solution that you're using. This ZATCA will not provide. You have to generate it through the solution that you are using, and it should be present in the physical format of the invoice that you are giving to your client, and also in the electronic format that you are saving on your system for archival purposes. Later on, ZATCA may ask for it. So whatever invoices you are reproducing before then, it should contain the QR code, whether in the physical format or in the electronic format. In the phase 2, the QR code will be applicable for all the invoices, whether B2B, B2C, and it will help to validate these invoices. When we talk about the QR code, which is the phase that we are into, the first phase. In this phase, if you see any B2C invoice or simplified tax invoice, the QR code will be there, and you can scan it and you can check this invoice. We'll just now see how you can do that. And this QR code, from the QR code, what information you'll get? The seller's name, VAT number of the seller, date and time of the invoice, the invoice total with VAT, and the VAT total, which should be in real. So from the QR code, all this information will be visible. In the second phase, more things will be added to this QR code, like the cryptographic stamp, hash of the XML invoice, the signature, the public key, etc. All these technical things will be added in the second phase. It's not there in the first phase. In the first phase, only the 5 requirements which are there at 1 to 5 will be there. You can continue to ask questions on the chat box if you wish to, so that your doubts are clarified. I'll try to take them in between or even at the end if we have the time permits. And this QR code format should be like this. This is the TLV format, the tag, length, and the value format. It should be like this. And Webtel has also made a QR code scanner for you, and you can download it from the Play Store. The name of the app is Fatura QR code scanner. You can download this app, and this will help you in scanning the QR code and reading the contents thereof. Even if you have not downloaded, just try and scan this QR code from your mobile phones. There is a in most of the smartphones now we have this QR code scanner. So try and scan this and tell me what you can see. Let me see if anybody can see it in the QR code has been able to be scanned by you. And what can you see? I think what you'll see will be something like this jumbled text. And this is the correct representation of the QR codes. And if you have a QR code scanner, Webtel's particular QR code scanner or some other QR code scanner, then you will able to see this information that is there at the bottom. Otherwise, with a normal QR code scanner, you will only be able to see this jumbled data. Is it getting too technical? So in the case of tax invoice phase 1, the generation phase, the system will generate invoice. The supplier will share the invoice with the buyer and store it in an electronic format. That will happen. Then in the second phase, the integration phase, the supplier will upload the invoice in XML format at the ZATCA portal real time before issuing it to the client. The platform will validate the invoice information. The file will be cleared and digitally signed by ZATCA in real time. The supply system will receive the validated and signed invoice. And the buyer will get this information, and supplier will share with the buyer. And the buyer can verify this invoice by scanning the QR code. This will be the complete system in the second phase. You can compare both the phases in this chart. In the case of simplified invoice, obviously things will be simpler. As you can see, but the QR code will be there in the first phase itself, and the customer can scan this QR code. Even now, you can scan the QR code of the invoices, B2C invoices that you are getting. And in the second phase, obviously, it will have to be uploaded at the ZATCA portal, and then copy will be given to the client. Few things are not allowed in the first phase, which are these: allowing uncontrolled access. I'll just explain what that means. Tampering of e-invoice or the associated notes or logs, allowing multiple invoice series. And in the phase 2, all these three, and also allowing export of cryptographic stamping key, or allowing software time changes or modification of timestamp value during the issue of e-invoice. All these things are not allowed. They will be counted as violations. So what do we mean by uncontrolled access? Anonymous access. There's no registered user and we do not know who has accessed the system. That's not allowed. Ability to operate with default password, and sometimes you may be using some softwares where the username and password is saved and anybody can log into that. So that's not allowed. Absence of user session management. Proper sessions are not being managed in that case. So all these things are not allowed. And tampering of e-invoice means allowing alteration or deletion of the e-invoice or the credit debit notes, allowing for log modification or deletion, generation with inaccurate timestamps, non-sequential log generation, and electronic invoice counter reset. Again, the same number of invoice may be used, so that's not allowed. Storage of invoice in the electronic format. So whether in the first phase we can save the invoice or store the invoice in the Word format or Excel format or even in the PDF format, whether that is possible. That's not possible because it requires that the invoice should be time-stamped and it should be tamper-proof. If in the case of PDF, no changes can be made, then probably it's acceptable. But in the case of Word or Excel, you can always make the changes. So invoices prepared and saved in these are not allowed. They should be generated from an electronic system, which may be an accounting package, which will maybe additional tool which helps you generate, which is connecting a connector to your accounting package or the ERP package. which helps an e-invoice solution, which helps to generate invoices. But you might say that no one will know, and we may continue to keep invoices as we were issuing. At least some of us may think like that. But as you're aware that the audits will also take place by ZATCA. Taxpayers may be subject to ZATCA e-Invoicing compliance audit from time to time. They will have to provide ZATCA auditors all data required to enable them to check various compliances and provide them with archived e-invoice and associated note files. So always this can happen, and on test check basis, the ZATCA may send its inspectors for checking the various compliances. So we need to be very careful. So that was about the phase one. Are there any challenges, any issues, any doubts in the first phase? If there are any, you can write in the chat box. I'll try to answer them. Otherwise, we will proceed to the challenges on e-invoicing in the phase two. And if anybody wants to ask any question on voice, he can be enabled for speaking. So please raise your hand if you want that. Okay, I think there are no doubts as of now. So I can proceed with the challenges in invoicing in phase two. In phase two, the invoice contents will be more detailed. What invoice is being issued now as compared to what will be issued in the second phase, it will be more detailed. Obviously, the information which is now will be there. Additionally, more things will be there. Like take a simple example of address. For address, all these separate fields should be there. As of now, there's only the necessity in phase one of the address of the supplier and the address of the buyer. But in the second phase, we'll be requiring the separate fields of street, additional street, building number, city, postal code, etc., etc. All these things will be required. Similarly, the group VAT number, if it's applicable. So all these things will be required for the tax invoice and whatever is applicable in the case of simplified tax invoice. All these things of the buyer, of the seller, few things will not be required. Obviously, in the case of B2C invoice, the buyer details are not required, so that will not required. So this is just a summary of the various requirements, what is required and what is not required in the second phase. So you can see like VAT category code, the VAT category rate, etc. These are not required in the simplified tax invoice, but they are required in the tax invoice. So we need to be prepared for the second phase also, because that's also not very far. It may seem far, but once you start the preparation and you try to understand, and you will appreciate that even for the phase one, we probably didn't get the sufficient time. And now also, if proper audit is done of your requirements, the compliances, probably there will be deficiencies and some violations you might be committing without even knowing. So it is important to understand, it is important to engage a professional who can understand what the requirements of law are and whether they have been compliant with or not. So somebody needs to check that, some independent person. Otherwise, you may be continuing the defaults, and when the officials come, then the non-compliance will be there, violations will be there, and the penalties will be there. So even for phase two, we should be prepared for all these things. So challenges, if we talk about the various validations are there in the electronic format, it will have a huge impact on the business operations and the infrastructure. As you're aware, only summary information used to go in the VAT returns, but now in the case of e-invoice, there will be field level validations. For each field, the format has been specified, the number of the length of the characters has been specified even to that extent. Then we should understand. Tamir is asking whether the item name should be in Arabic. Yes, the invoice, the complete invoice should be in Arabic. So even the item name should be in Arabic. So we also have to understand whether the ERP or the accounting package that we are using, will it be necessary, will it be ready with all the necessary changes well in time? If yes, what is the cost, time and effort for the updation? Are other integration solutions are available, which are probably better and cheaper? In the case of POS, again, there are some issues. What if the customer asks for tax invoice? Because in generally in the case of point of sales instruments or machines, only the simplified tax invoice comes out, and it should not increase the customer wait time. It should be able to generate the QR code. Let me again reiterate, I'm sure that each one of you or your clients are generating the invoice, B2C invoice, with a QR code, with a compliant QR code. If that is not there, it is a violation of the regulations. Please ensure that. And the QR code, even not only it should be there, it should be the compliant QR code, which I showed to you just now. That if you scan it with your mobile phone, then the contents should not be visible. It should be jumbled data. It should only be through a proper app like that of Webtel's QR code scanner, Fatura QR code scanner that you should use, and you should be able to see the contents only then. Then there's a question: if the supplier name the invoice, sale invoice, is it considered violation? Okay, I think you want to say whether he does not mention whether it is a simplified tax invoice or a tax invoice, but he just mentions invoice. That is a violation. Definitely it is a violation, because we have two category of invoices, two broad category of invoices. One is the tax invoice, the other is the simplified tax invoice. One is generally for B2C and the other is for B2B. So if we just mention invoice, that's not sufficient. It's a violation, because how anybody will come to know whether you're talking about the tax invoice or the simplified tax invoice. So that needs to be mentioned properly. Then reconciliation is also going to be a big challenge. Here in India, the experience has been too bad, because a lot of things have to be reconciled. And once this second phase, particularly the second phase comes, and even the input tax credit of taxes paid by you on inputs, once that is available only through the system, it will be very difficult. So reconciliations will be very important, and you should go for a solution which is able to help you in proper reconciliation of the data between the ERP, between the e-invoices uploaded, between the VAT return. All the data of all these should be the same. If there are differences, there should be proper reconciliation, and these matters will complicate further where multiple invoice generation systems are there. And invoice sequence, multiple sequence, whether that's allowed or not, I'll take that later on. Then invoice modification, cancellation, deletion. I think presently or even prior to the first phase, you were able to modify, cancel or delete the invoices, but that's not allowed in the invoicing regime. Even in the first phase, it's not allowed. For any changes, you have to issue debit note or a credit note. You cannot cancel or delete the invoice once it has been issued. Then presently, I think everywhere we are accustomed to backdate entries with VAT pass after the month end to meet the sales targets. We keep the books open for some time so that we can show the sales in the previous month. That's not be possible in the e-invoicing regime, particularly in the second phase, because there will be real-time reporting of tax invoices. And for simplified tax invoices, it will be reporting within the next 24 hours. So that will not be possible. A separate invoice is in the invoicing regime to be issued for VAT on advance receipt, VAT on deemed supply. That has to be issued now. Then industry specific challenges are there, like in the case of FMCG companies, they put on all the material in these kind of vans. They go to various retailers and wholesalers, and there the amount is decided and the quantities of various products are decided. It's not decided in advance. And even if he has given some order, he may later on change. He may say, I don't want 24 crates of Pepsi, I want 20 crates of Pepsi and 7 crates of 7-Up and all those kind of things. So he may change at the final instance. So in that case, e-invoicing has to be issued at that moment. So these kind of challenges may be there. Then in the case of infrastructure companies, again, a specific requirement is there wherein they give the bill till last month and the billing for the current month. But in the e-invoice regime, there is no option for such detailing. Then there's another question, for how long can the seller delay the invoice issuing process? After the month end, you get 15 days, up to 15 days to issue the invoice. So if the invoice is for the month of February, it can be issued by 15th of March. And when we talk about e-invoicing, other things, it's some return may be delayed, some delay may be there in the deposit of tax, some short tax may have been deposited. Still, the penalties are there. You may pay those penalties and you can continue doing the business. But in the case of e-invoicing, if you are not compliant for the first phase and particularly the second phase, in that case, your business will come to a standstill. You'll not be able to conduct the business because a paper invoice or a normal invoice that you've been accustomed to issuing will not be considered as an invoice. It will be non-compliance on your part, and also it will be non-compliance on the part of the person who is buying from you, because he'll not be able to take credit of the taxes paid on the purchases because that's not a proper invoice. So if the business continuity will be at stake. So that is why compliance with e-invoicing regulations and the provisions is all the more important. So what are the requisites of a good e-invoicing solution? We should see that. So it should be able to upload the invoices on a real-time basis and also get back invoices from ZATCA in real time. It should be capable of managing large volumes. It should not be that when the number of invoices is huge, the system gives you the sad emoji or something like that. It should be scalable. It should be flexible. It should be user-friendly. It should have the experience of integrating with APIs. It should have the facility of real-time upload of simplified tax invoices, though not required, but it is recommended, because otherwise there may be issues. It may be changed later on, and the copy which is there in your records may be different. The one you are uploading may be different. So it is better that you upload, and if there are any changes, even in the case of simplified tax invoices, in that case, you are issuing a debit or a credit note, as the case may be. And the solution should also help you provide the prompt updates. So you should assess the various solutions available, take a quick decision. Don't always go for the cheap solution. It may not always be the best. Go for a solution which will help you in both the phases. Take into account the data security concerns. This data is so important. This is the data of all your clients, all your products, all your prices. The various prices it may be differential pricing. For customer A, you may be charging something else. For customer B, you may be charging something else. All this data, if somebody gets, if one of your competitor gets this data, what will happen? So please ensure that the proper data security is there, and it's not that anybody has access to this data. So from that point of view, on-premise solution suits large corporates due to criticality of data. For smaller service providers or people who are selling goods, etc., cloud solutions are suitable for them. Or people who need anytime, anywhere access, also the cloud solutions are suitable for them. So the e-invoicing application should be there, which should be able to connect or integrate with the ERP, and also should be able to connect with ZATCA in the second phase. In the first phase also, even if ZATCA requires, because it says the internet connectivity should be there, so the solution should be capable of providing that also. So all these things, as you can see on the screen, who will do? Webtel will do for you. If you go for the Webtel solution, we will provide all these facilities for you. So what kind of solution are we offering? Let me tell you about that. Just in brief, that the two type of solutions are available. One is the local host, that is the on-premise solution, which I talked about for bigger corporates who have more data security concerns. And the other is a SaaS model or a cloud-based solution, which will help the people who need anytime, anywhere access, or for smaller taxpayers. Diagrams, I think we are short in time, I'll just skip, but in brief, I'll tell you about them. The option one is the API application programming interface. That can be one option. The other option is the staging tables. The third option is the FTP or the flight transfer protocol. And the other option is FTP with the mapping tool. So these solutions and the diagrams will be explained in greater detail to people who are interested in our solution, and our team will approach you and they will guide you accordingly, and all these diagrams will be explained in detail by them. And then the reconciliation engine will be there, which will be reconciling it will be an auto reconciliation of invoices filed at the ZATCA and those which are there in the ERP. This will be the role of Webtel. And let me show you the web application, just a small preview of that application. First of all, you will log into the portal. Thereafter, on the left-hand side, as you can see, the various options are available. First of all, you will create the various masters, the corporate master, the units, the parties, items, etc. You can, if there are few, you can just punch in, or if there are many, then the option of importing from Excel template is also there. Similarly, for invoices, you can import from the Excel template or punch in the data. And then the option of printing the invoice or generating the XML will come. And this is how the XML format of the invoice will look like. And this is the PDF format. And I think you'll be needing both because this is not much readable. So your client may be asking for this kind of invoice. So you'll be needing both these formats, and your solution should be able to provide you both of them. These are a few of our clients in KSA for whom we are doing the e-invoicing work, and there are many other clients. So that was in brief about the e-invoicing phase 1, phase 2. And if there are any questions, I can take those, or otherwise sometime we can spend on the FAQs, which I have already. So if there's any queries from your side, I can take those. Or else I'll take a few of the queries from my side. Okay, I'll start that. And in between, if you have any query, if any query comes to mind, you can write in the chat box, or you can raise your hand so that you can be enabled for speaking, and you can ask your query on mic also. So one of the questions is, can a different IRN format be used for government issued invoices, Riyadh branch invoices, and other branch invoices? So the answer to that is that according to the specified paragraph of the VAT implementing regulations, IRN must be visible on the invoice to identify the tax invoice. This regulation does not specify the format of this number, and taxpayers can use different formats for the IRN invoice reference number so long as it uniquely identifies the tax invoice. It is prohibited to issue multiple invoice sequences for e-invoices. I have multiple branches across KSA, and each branch has its own invoice sequence. Am I required to unify invoice sequence across all my branches? The answer to that again is please refer to the paragraph 2E of Article 3 of the relevant regulations. Invoice sequence mentioned within the prohibited functions above does not refer to the invoice reference number that identifies the tax invoice. It refers to the technical ability of the invoicing solution to issue invoices using multiple invoice sequence counters. So, sorry. The example of correct sequencing is e-invoicing like this. The sequence should be like this. Multiple sequences like these are not allowed. Then another question which people ask is there any data residency or data center legal requirement? So it should be in accordance with the relevant article of the implementing regulations. And in case of a cloud computing e-invoicing solution, if the data center is located outside KSA, an extension or access to data must be available in the branch that is located in the kingdom and should allow access to all the related records. And other regulations like the National Cybersecurity Authority or the Data Management Office published law should also be taken care of. Let us recapitulate the requirements for phase 1 for simplified tax invoices. As you're aware, the QR code is a must. And even if you're printing it in a paper invoice, you must have a digital copy of the same. That is, even on the paper copy or the electronic copy, the PDF copy that you are keeping, in the XML format you are keeping, the QR code should be there. Then another question is whether the e-invoicing needs to be cloud-based. That is, a cloud solution is necessary. No, that's not a requirement. You can use an offline solution also. Are VAT registered individuals subject to e-invoice issuance? Yes, they are subject to the e-invoice regime, and non-resident taxpayers need not do that. What are the e-invoice requirements for phase 1? So that's the last query that I'm taking. And thereafter, the team Jigyasa can come back and give a vote of thanks. So what are the invoice requirements for phase 1? It should have the minimum additional fields, the normal VAT invoice which is there in the pre-invoice regime. It has to be there. All the fields should be there. Additionally, a few fields are required, like for simplified tax invoices and the associated notes. That is the B2C transaction, a mandatory QR code is necessary. For tax invoices and associated notes, an optional QR code and mandatory VAT number of the buyer, if the buyer is registered VAT taxpayer, to be included in the e-invoices. No specific format has been given for the phase 1. The invoices must include the mandatory fields, and they should be issued from an electronic system meeting ZATCA's requirements. And all the copies of issued invoices must be stored by the taxpayer. So thank you very much for a very patient hearing. Now Jigyasa will give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such an insightful session. Thank you all the participants for taking time to be here today. If you have joined late or missed any important information, you can watch the repeat of this session on our YouTube channel, and even check out our previously conducted webinars. For any doubts and queries, please scan the QR code that is visible to your screen, or you can contact us on the details mentioned on the screen. We soon will be back with another session. Till then, stay tuned and stay safe. Thank you.